Hey. Hey.
Hmm.
Hey.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, sir.
Hey. Hey.
ఏంట్రా బాబు?
You know, most of my you would have completed your base as, and some of you still pursuing your we are doing like a base as. But in today's class, finally we are going to start with advanced as. In advanced as, first few days we are going to discuss about the macros, and once we have completed the macros, we will discuss about plot SQL. If you are working in the real time, macros very very important concept. We can do any task without using macros also. But if you apply the macros to that task, the task is going to get simplified and the task is going to become dynamic. In today's class, I'm not going to discuss what is macro, what is the definition of macro, what we have in macro. I'm not going to discuss any of those. In today's class, simply, we are going to say what is the use of macro, how do we use macros in the real time, and how we perform, how we write the code, a simple code in macro. In today's class, just I'm going to show you the macro code. In tomorrow's class, we'll say what is the use of macro, what is the definition of macro, what are the components that we have macro. We'll see everything in tomorrow's class. Now, say for example, on my desktop, I have SAS folder. In the SAS folder, is my voice is low?
No, sir, it is clear.
No, sir, it is clear. If anybody has got issues, just log out and log in back in this. Okay. Now, on my desktop, I have a SAS folder. In the SAS folder, I have one more folder called SAS data. In the SAS data folder, I have Excel folder. Just imagine. In the Excel folder, I have Excel sheets. Here we have few Excel sheets. I want to import this Excel sheet. If I ask you, can you please import an Excel sheet? You know what is the base SAS code that we should write if you want to import an Excel sheet?
Proc input.
We should write a procedure on proc input.
Proc input.
Do you know how to write the proc input procedure? Give me 1 minute. 1 second. Okay. Now, this is the program that we write. Whenever I want to import an Excel sheet or a CSV file, generally, we write a procedure like this one. Proc import data file is equal to the path of the Excel sheet. Say, for example, I want to import after the Excel sheet. Shift, right click, copy as path. So go to the program and paste the path. In the same statement, now I'm going to specify out is equal to data set name. In the work library, I want to save it as an Africa data set. I'm writing work.africa. But if you want to save in some other library, you should write the library name dot data set name. Then you will write the DBMS is equal to database management system is equal to XLS. In work library, if you have already Africa data set, if you want to overwrite the old data with the new data, we write the replace option, semicolon, run. And now run semicolon. Now select this program, execute this program. Now if I go to that work library, in the work library, I am going to have a data set called Africa. Now I want to import one more Excel sheet. This time I want to import a Excel sheet. How do we import an Excel sheet? Now again, shift, right click, copy as path, go to the program. Now again I should write a proc input data file is equal to the path of that Excel sheet. In the same statement, out is equal to, I want to save in work library as a data set. I'm writing work.a. DBMS is equal to XLS, replace option, semicolon, run, semicolon. Now select this program, execute the program. Now we are going to have one more data set called A. And by the way, I want to import one more Excel sheet called cost. Shift, right click, copy as path, then again go to the program. Now I'm writing proc import data file is equal to the path of the Excel sheet. Within the same statement, out is equal to, I want to have it as a cost data set. Now EVMS is equal to XLS, replace, semicolon, run semicolon. Now select this entire program and execute the program. Now we are putting out a data set called cost. This is how we write a proc import procedure. Just imagine, in this folder, I have 50 Excel sheets. I want to import all the 50 Excel sheets. What should I do? If you want to import an Excel sheet, we should write one program called proc import. If you want to import 50 Excel sheets, we should write 50 proc import procedures. So that means I want to write the same program 50 times. Can't we simplify this code? No. Here, what is the requirement? I want to execute the same proc import procedure for 50 times. Now remember one thing, whenever you want to repetitively execute the same program again and again, whenever you want to execute the same program repetitively, in this scenario, I want to execute proc import procedure for 50 times. So whenever I want to execute the same program again and again, instead of writing the base as code, instead of executing the same code again and again, in such scenario, we are going to apply macros. How we are going to write the macro code now? Now, can you tell me, here we have writing three proc import procedures. One second. Now, whenever I want to execute the same program again and again, in such scenario, we are going to apply the macros. Now, can you tell me, if I want to import today 50 Excel sheets from one proc import procedure to from one Excel sheet to another Excel sheet, how many changes you should make in your program? Can anybody please tell me how many changes you should make in one proc import procedure from one Excel sheet to another Excel sheet?
Data file and out.
We should make two
Out
changes.
is equal to
One is the data file is equal to path, and the second one is
out
out
is
is equal to the data set. So from one Excel sheet to another Excel sheet, from one data set to another data set, we should make two changes. Now, whenever we want to apply a macro for this proc import, you should understand how many changes you should make for each program, for each procedure. Everything. We should make two changes from one Excel sheet to another Excel sheet. One is data file is equal to path, and another one is out is equal to data set. Now, in the real time, whenever I want to apply a macro, whenever I want to write a macro code, the first thing that you get to understand you should do, first of all, you should execute the base hash code. Write the base hash code and execute the base hash code. If the base hash code successfully got executed, then you can apply macro on the base hash code. Okay? Now, say for example, I'm going to delete all the three data sets. Now, say for example, I'm executing this code. If I execute this code, is this code is going to get successfully executed? Yes, it has got successfully executed. We have a cost data set, and if I open the data set, and yes, we have the data. And if I go to the log window, in the log window, there are no errors at all. That means this program got executed successfully. Now, we can choose this program to apply the macro. Now, the first thing is how many changes you should make from one procedure to one proc import, another proc import procedure, and you understood that one, we need to make two changes. And after that one, for whichever code you want to apply the macro, whichever base hash code you want to apply the macro, now before the starting of the base hash code, you should start your macro code. Now, you should start your macro code by writing percentage macro. We always start our macro code by a statement called percentage macro. And after the percentage macro, since we are developing a macro, you should write a macro name. So since I am developing my own macro, you should write your own macro name. And by the way, when writing a macro name, you should follow the same as naming rules. The name should be less than or equal to 32 characters. You should start with alphabet underscore. You can have a number but should not start with a number. No special characters except underscore. By following those rules, you can write any name. So since this is related to import procedure, I am giving my macro name as an input because I want to give logically very close name. So for input is the macro name. And after that one, immediately you should have a parenthesis, open the parenthesis and close the parenthesis, complete a semicolon. And then at the end of the macro, at the end of the base hash code, after all the proc import procedure, now we should close the macro. How to close the macro? We should close the macro by writing a statement called percentage m end. Some people call it as a m end, some people call it as a m end, and some people call it as a macro end. Many other people say, write the statement, should write m end, macro end or m end. One word. And after writing the percentage m end, before the semicolon, you should write one more time the macro name. And we'll see that one later. Now, again, I'm coming back to the percentage macro statement. After writing the macro name, we have a parenthesis. Now, within this parenthesis, what we should do, we should write parameters. What we should write? We should write the parameters. What are these parameters? How many parameters should write? How we should write the parameters? For the time being, I'm telling you, we'll discuss about the parameters later, but you should understand one thing. When I'm developing this macro, how many changes you should make from one proc import procedure from one Excel sheet to another Excel sheet. Remember how many changes you should make? 2 changes.
Two.
What are the 2 changes? Data file is equal to and out is equal to.
Out is equal to.
So that means you require 2 changes. So that means you should write 2 parameters in this parenthesis. By writing 2 parameters, you should write the first parameter and then you should write the second parameter. But by writing more than 1 parameter, between the parameters, you should have a comma. Just like how we apply the arguments function in the same way. When writing more than 1 parameter, within the parameters, you should have a comma. You should separate the parameters by comma. Now, how to write these parameters again? When writing a parameter, you should follow the same SAS naming rules. I should have 2 changes from one processor to one block import and another block import. One is data file is equal to, the second one is out is equal to data set. So I should apply the first 2 parameters. I'm going to apply the first parameter, but the data file is equal to. Now, in the parentheses, you can write any name. I'm writing the first parameter name as a file. Or you can say d5 data file. Logically, I want to give very close name. Now d5, comma, the second parameter, I want to have a table name, data set name, or DSN, DS or DSN. Simply I'm writing data set name, DSN. Can you see here how many parameters we have given? 2 parameters. How do you know we have given 2 parameters? We have 1 semicolon and we have 2 parameters here. Now, once we have given the parameters, whatever the parameter we have given within the parentheses, now we should apply those parameters in this SAS code. Okay. Now, the first parameter is a D file. I want to apply the D file parameter in my program. What I'm going to do? I am going to remove the part of this Excel sheet instead of the part of writing, parameter. What is the parameter that we have? D file. And remember, when you're applying a parameter in the SAS code, you should always start your parameter by ampersand symbol. Remember, from today onwards, when we're discussing about the macros, we are going to come across 2 important special characters. One is a percentage symbol and another one is an ampersand symbol. Okay, now I'm ready. So we should always denote the parameter by starting with the ampersand symbol. So ampersand D5. We kept this one within the double inverted quotations, why? Because this is the path. So paths should always be present within the double inverted quotations. Now we have a second parameter called DSN. I want to apply that parameter for out is equal to data set name. I'm writing out is equal to ampersand DSN. So whatever the parameter we have listed here, I'm applying those parameters in my SAS code. Now this is how we develop the macro. For block import procedure. Now I'm selecting this program. I'm executing this program. Now a macro called import will be created in a separate catalog folder called SAS MBSER. By default, this folder will be created in the work library. It is a catalog folder. If I open the SAS MBSER catalog folder, now in that we can find a macro called import. Unfortunately, you cannot open this import catalog. By default, that will be created in the work library. I told you in the starting, the most important purpose, the reason of macros is repetitive usage. I want to use the same macro repetitively whenever I want to import an Excel sheet. But if you want to use it repetitively across the session, where we should have this macro? You should not have this macro in the work library. You should have this macro in a permanent library. I will tell you later how to save this macro in a permanent library. For the time being, we save this macro in a work library. By the way, I have developed and I have created a macro called input. But unfortunately, this macro has been created, but this is not ready for usage. Macro has been created, but not invoked. And the macro created out in the current invocable. This is not ready for use. If you want to make this macro is useful for the current session, here what we should do, whatever the macro that you have created, after the percentage meant, you should write one more time the macro name input. Now if you select the program, input the program, the macro will be created and it has been invoked. Now this is ready for the usage. Now how to use this macro? Macro to create your own input in a macro name, how to use this macro? Now, if you want to use this macro, you should always start with a macro by taking a macro name. You should always start with the percentage. What is the macro that we have created? We have created a macro called input. Percentage input. That is how we should write a macro. Now the percentage input, now within the parentheses, now what we should write? We should write the values for the parameters. How many parameters we have in this macro? 2 parameters. What is the first parameter that we have? D5. And we should write the value for the D5. So you tell me, in this macro program, I use the D5 for what purpose?
Data file.
That means the part of the Excel sheet is the value for the D5. Say for example, here I have all DS. I want to import this one. Now I'm going to get the path, shift, right click. Shift, right click, copy as path, go to the program and paste the path here. And by the way, when I'm developing the macro, I already given the inverted quotations. So now we should only write the quotations here when we're writing the value of this macro. Now, first parameter value is over, keep it equal. Now what is the second parameter value? I use the second parameter for out is equal to. Now out is equal to nothing but a data set. Now we should give the value for the data set. Now I want to have my data set name as a demo. I'm writing the demo. And then if I select this program, if I execute this program, now can you see what we have now? I have demo data set. And yes, I have the data in the demo data set. Understand this, everybody? Now, from now onwards, If you want to import anytime an Excel sheet, an XLS file, you no need to write a complete proc import program. By executing this one line, you can get it. Say for example, on my desktop, I have SAS raw data folder. In the SAS raw data folder, I have Excel folder. In that Excel folder, I have XLS folder. In that XLS folder, I have baseball. I want to import this one. Here, how we import? By using macro, shift right click, copy as path, go to the program. Tell me how we are going to get the macro to now. So this is how we are going to get it. Now simply what is the macro that we have developed? Remember, percentage import. Open the parenthesis. The path of the file. This is the path you don't need to give the quotation because already we have given quotations in the file developing the macro. Now comma. What is the data set name that you want to have? I want to have it as name. Baseball. Close it. Even semicolon is also not mandatory. Select this one line. Execute this one line. Now can you say what I'm going to have? I'm going to have the baseball data set here. Clear everybody? This is how we are going to develop the macro, how we are going to from today onwards. Whenever I want to import an Excel sheet, now I only write the whole program by writing a percentage import, path of the file, comma, data set name, I could able to import an Excel sheet. Clear everybody? Is this clear? Now, I want to develop a macro to import a CSV file. Here on my desktop, I have a SAS folder. In the SAS folder, I have SAS data folder here. In the SAS data folder, I have a CSV folder. In the CSV folder, I have few CSV files. By the way, I want to import this demo CSV file as a since. Now, what is the basic program that you will write? What is the basic program that you will write?
Proc import data file is equal to out is equal to
You want to copy the path of the file. Now, generally, how we write a proc import for a CSV file? We write a proc import. Data file is equal to the path of the CSV. Now, because the same statement, out is equal to data set name, I want to have it as a sets. Then DBMS is equal to CSV. If you want to create the replace option, now I'm writing replace, then semicolon. Now I'm writing run semicolon. You only try to proc import again and again. Now, whenever see, remember one important thing in the real time, how pro you are. Now, how much professional you are in the real time. When you're developing macro, we should always follow the same sequential order. That's the best practice of writing a macro program. Because when developing a macro, if you have one error, identifying that error, debugging that error is going to take a lot of time. It is going to be waste of time. So always try to write the code in a sequential manner. Now, this is the program that what I have written. I will given the program. Now, can you see I have sales data set? Go to the log window and check if you have any errors. No errors at all. Now, start applying the macro. Because today, I want to import 100 CSV files. I cannot write 100 times this program. I want to use macro. Tell me how to start writing the macro. Before the starting of the base as code, how we should start it. This is percentage macro. And then we should write macro name. I want to have it, in CSV. This is the macro I want to have. Now, then immediately what we should have, we should have parenthesis and semicolon. Towards the end of the base as code, what we should write now? We should write percentage. And again, towards the top, tell me how many parameters we will require now?
two parameters.
Again, wait by two parameters. So the first parameter I want to have, say for example, 5. The second parameter I want to have it here, data set NPS. Then what we should do, in the previous example, I used the quotation this time. I do not want to write the quotations here. We'll say another way. So now I'm not writing quotation simply. What I'm writing here, data file is equal to ampersand 5. Ampersand 5. How it is equal to what we write now? Ampersand is. And if I use the program, the macro will get created, but this is not ready for usage. What we need to do? We need to invoke this macro. How to invoke the macro? Of the percentage. We should write one more time the macro here. IMP CSV. Now execute the program. Now the macro will get created, and now this is ready for usage. That is called invoking. We have invoked the macro. Now by the way, I want to import two CSV files. One is failure, another one is gas. Now I want to import failure. Shift right click. Copy as path. Go to the program. I want to import that one. So tell me how we can import that one. Percentage.
Open parenthesis, fix the path.
Value of the first parameter is 5. So I'm giving the path. By the way, in the program, I didn't write the double quotations. Now I'm writing the double quotations in the path. Now, and after that, I'm giving the path. In the value for the second one, I want to calculate failure. Close the parenthesis. So now select this one line. Execute this one line. Now, if I go to the work library, you know what is the data set I'm quoting out now? I'm quoting out the failure data set.
Failure.
By the way, I want to import gas also. Shift right click. Copy the path. Go to the program. Percentage IMP CSV. Open the parenthesis. The path of the CSV file. And the gas is my data set name. Now, one line. Select this one line. Execute this one line. Now, can you see what the data set I'm having now?
Yes.
I'm having the gas data set. Understand this one? This is how we develop a macro. If you understand this concept, 50% of macros is over. Everybody, you guys understood this one? How I'm developing a macro?
Yes, sir.
Did you get any idea? Do you have any idea? Yes, you should write the better to write the program, execute the code, and if the programs are not successfully executed, then you should create a macro. Yes. That is not meant you only to execute the code, but you should understand whether the code is correct or not. Do you have any suggestion you want to say, anybody? Anybody, any suggestion?
For each data set, we need to write like that. At a time, can't we import more data sets?
Any data set?
So I can pass third argument, sir.
See, how many macros I have written here? Two macros, right? Import is for which? For what purpose?
Excel.
Excel sheet. And IMP CSV for what purpose?
CSV.
Now, but can you tell me, to be frank, when importing an Excel sheet or a CSV file, what is the difference between Excel sheet and CSV file? How many changes you should make if it is a CSV file or if you are starting out importing a Excel sheet? Three changes. What are the three changes? Data file is equal to, it is going to be different from one file to another file. Out is equal to data set is going to be the second one. And third one? DBMS is equal to. For an Excel sheet, it is going to be XLS. For CSV file, it is going to be CSV file. For text file? Tab. So that means, why we should separate macro? Can't we develop one common macro for all the Excel sheets, CSV files and text files? Yes, we can develop it. Isn't it? Now, first of all, again, I want to write the base as code. Okay, tell me, you don't anything. First, I want to write the base as code to import, EMP CSV file. Can you tell me first, that is what I'm telling. The first experience it was there, first base as code, right? Base as code successfully executed macro project. Okay, now? Now, tell me how to import this EMP CSV file. Shift right click.
Copy.
Block. Data is equal to the block of the CSV file within the same program. Okay, the data set names. By the way, I want to have it as a name EMP only, and the DBM is equal to CSV namespace. But when you CSV file input capital కదండి దీనికి ఒక సేపు ఎక్సెల్ షీట్ ఇంపోర్ట్ చేశారు అనుకోండి ఎన్ని చేంజెస్ చేయాల్సి ఉంటుంది హౌ మెనీ చేంజెస్ యు షుడ్ మేక్
Excel is DBMS is called Excel. Data set is equal to data set.
Data file is equal to path will be get first. How is equal data set we need to
DBMS.
वो भी उधर ही सुनना चाहिए या डाल दो और ये इधर आते चंदा अभी को डाल देते आ जाओ एस्टिमेट पर डाला ठीक है वो हेलो वो सोचा क्या होगा